You know, when we talk about the story of AI, we often imagine this neat, clean timeline of breakthroughs. But the real story, it wasn't some eureka moment. It was messy, it was brilliant, and it was a deeply human tale of rivalry, genius, and one summer that honestly changed everything.
So, where did AI really come from? Well, it didn't start with a single line of code or one lone inventor. It was actually born from this incredible clash of brilliant minds and big ambitions, where everyone was sure they had the one true path to making a thinking machine. This is the story of how they were all finally brought into the same room.
To really get what AI is, we have to rewind the clock, back to a time before the term AI even existed. It was an era of amazing but totally separate ideas about how a machine could possibly learn to think.
So you had these two intellectual giants laying the groundwork. On one hand, you got the legendary Alan Turing. After his work breaking codes in World War II, he asked the big philosophical question, can machines think? And with his Turing test, he basically gave the whole field its ultimate goal. Then you have Claude Shannon, the absolute father of information theory. He and Turing actually met and talked about this stuff, but Shannon was focused on the more practical problem. Could you teach a computer to play chess? So one guy gave us the dream, and the other gave us the math to chase it.
Now, in the years just before AI got its name, the research world was completely fractured. People were split into these three rival tribes, you could say. First, you had the behaviorists, led by Norbert Wiener. They were all about cybernetics, this idea that intelligence comes from feedback. Then you had the connectionists, who were trying to build systems that copied the brain's neural networks. And finally, there were the symbolists, who thought intelligence was basically just logic, manipulating symbols like in a math problem. Each group thought they had the answer, and here's the kicker, they weren't really talking to each other.
So the whole field was just fragmented. And right into this intellectual tug-of-war steps our main character, a young, super ambitious, and pretty much unknown mathematician. And he had this idea that these tribes needed to be united under one new, revolutionary banner. And that brings us to this guy, John McCarthy. He and his colleague Marvin Minsky looked at the big theories of the day, especially Norbert Wiener's cybernetics, and basically thought, nah, this is way too narrow. McCarthy apparently found Wiener to be a bit overbearing. So they didn't want to just join an existing school of thought. They wanted to start a whole new field from scratch.
So in 1955, they drafted this unbelievably bold proposal for a summer workshop. Their goal? To literally kickstart an entire field of study. And to pull it off, McCarthy did something really clever. He came up with a brand new name, right there in the proposal. He later admitted he picked the name artificial intelligence, mostly because it sounded neutral. It didn't belong to any of the existing tribes, so no one could claim it.
But of course, a big idea is one thing. You need money, and you need clout. So they went to the heavyweight, Claude Shannon. Now, Shannon had his own famous rivalry with Norbert Wiener, so he was more than happy to back a project that would create an alternative to cybernetics. With Shannon's name on the proposal, they went to the Rockefeller Foundation, asked for $13,500, and got this, $7,500. Hey, it was just enough to get the party started.
The event they put together was officially called the Dartmouth Summer Research Project on Artificial Intelligence. It was supposed to be this super-focused 2-month brainstorm. What it actually became was a legendary, productive, and, well, beautiful mess.
I mean, just look at this. John McCarthy was a true visionary, but let's just say, organizing wasn't his strong suit. The workshop became a total free-for-all. It was supposed to be a closed-door thing, but people just kind of drifted in and out whenever they wanted. Some of the main organizers left early. To this day, we don't even know exactly who was there, because McCarthy lost the sign-in sheet. It was less of a formal conference and more like a chaotic marketplace of ideas.
But, and this is a huge but, in the middle of all that chaos, something absolutely magical happened. Alan Newell and Herbert Simon, who were from that symbolist tribe, showed up, and they brought something nobody else had, a working AI program. Their logic theorist could actually prove mathematical theorems all by itself. For a lot of people in that room, this was the moment the light bulb went on. AI wasn't just a theory anymore. It was right there, a real thing, running on a machine. It was completely stunning.
So here's the crazy part. If you judge the conference by its own super ambitious goals, it was a total failure. They didn't solve any of the big problems. No grand, unified theory emerged. But its real legacy, its actual success, was something nobody could have possibly planned. The workshop's real breakthrough wasn't a paper or an algorithm. It was the people. It was the community. For the very first time, all of these brilliant, competing minds were in the same space, arguing, sharing ideas, and actually seeing what the other tribes were up to. It gave the whole movement a name, artificial intelligence. And more importantly, it created the founding network of researchers who would go on to lead the entire field for the next 50 years. And the proof is in what happened right after. The people from that one chaotic summer went on to literally define the future of computing. McCarthy created Lisp, which became the programming language for AI. Another attendee, Arthur Samuel, coined the term machine learning. And then, one by one, the key figures, McCarthy, Minsky, Simon, and Newell, all won the Turing Award, which is like the Nobel Prize for computer science, for the very work they started building at Dartmouth.
And the impact gets even bigger. That small group of people who showed up in 1956 went on to found the three great hubs of AI research in America. Minsky and McCarthy started the lab at MIT. McCarthy then went west to found the lab at Stanford. And Simon and Newell built the powerhouse program at Carnegie Mellon. The entire academic foundation of AI was built by the attendees of that one messy summer.
Okay, but this isn't just ancient history. The legacy of that ambitious, messy, brilliant summer is still shaping our world in some very, very direct ways today.
So let's jump forward in time. It's 2006, 50 years later. The 5 surviving original attendees actually went back to Dartmouth for a reunion conference they called AI at 50. They returned to the very place that all started, not just to look back, but to think about where this was all headed.
And out of that reunion came something pretty remarkable. The original pioneers launched the AI 100, a 100-year study based at Stanford. Think about that. It's a commitment from the founders of the field to try and guide and understand the powerful technology they unleashed on the world, with a new report coming out every 5 years to track AI's impact on all of us. It's like the original generation trying to shepherd their creation safely into the future.
Which leaves us right here. The first 50 years of AI were started by a handful of brilliant, flawed, and rivalrous people in a single room. Today, AI is in the hands of billions. If that messy, chaotic, and deeply human origin story got us this far, what kind of future will our own messy, brilliant, and chaotic humanity build with it next?